So in this panel discussion, we have 5 guests and our moderator, which is Jaleel, seasoned author at Blockbeatst, Wang, chairman of Hong Kong My Home Limited, Farani, founding partner of Farani, Taylor Solicitors, Wang, partner of Generative Ventures, Yi Kai, partner of Huili Fund, Janae, Vice Chairman of the Angle Startup Committee of the British Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, and Dr. Waishun Law, General Partner and Dianliang Investment Management, Adjunct Professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, to come onto the stage for the panel discussion. Please, everyone, welcome our guests, our moderator.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this panel discussion. First, I would like to invite the speakers to make a self-introduction. I will start from my right-hand side. Mr. Farani, please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Farani. I'm a founding partner of Farani Taylor Solicitors, which is a firm based in London, and we are the lawyers for Vertex. We have been in this landscape and which is evolving continuously, and it's a very proud moment for us to be involved in this summit. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Yue Kai from Huili Foundation. It is a mainland-based investment fund. And we have a private equity management, and also we manage securities. I would like to start with 3 books to introduce our business. As a property private equity, we are providing the issuance of bonds for property REITs and property companies and REITs. And REITs is our core business, but very pitifully, these recent years, property market is not very doing very well. Like other business, like entertainment and film, and there were also diversified business for us. And from the year 2017 to 18, we marched our business into blockchain. So we have this alliance industry blockchain. And in the year 2018, if you have SAO projects, maybe you are very familiar with this book. And this is centered around the industry blockchain development. And then in the year 2019, as our clients are mainly the property companies, so we have some projects in Cambodia and the capital of Cambodia, and the project is we have the SVP project filing, and we got the exemption. But then we found that STO actually, after we issue STO, we cannot have raise any fund at all. And then there's the pandemic, and then the project was suspended. But during the whole process, we can see that from our core business to blockchain endeavor and to our new businesses, we all have some experience. Thank you. Okay, good afternoon. I'm Will from Generative Ventures, and we are also collaborating with the big family business in Europe. We manage more than $3 billion US of assets, and we invested more than 200 startups in Asia. And for the new investment, we established the Generative Ventures to do the first and the second round of investment of this business, and we have invested in 4 to 5 projects already. Okay, good afternoon. I'm Waishun from the AL Capital. We are the tech investment foundation, and we invest into AI, blockchain, and IT related businesses. And we have alum computing power, and we are actually the adjunct professor of Hong Kong Chinese U. I'm Wang. And I would introduce myself in both Chinese and English. I have been in the investment management for nearly 30 years, and I'm very interested in RWA because I think Hong Kong enjoys a very good chance to build it into a scale of more than 100 billion US dollars. So Hong Kong is my home.
For the purpose of promoting really RWA. As you know, Hong Kong has very limited land supply, and a lot of the land and the infrastructure we are reclaiming from the sea. And one of the major government projects is going to cost somewhere north of 100 billion US dollar. In this current financing environment, obviously debt would be very expensive. So we are promoting an idea of a government-private sector to use RWA to finance the land reclamation, which would give institutional shareholders of those things an upside, but also hopefully it would become one of the world's largest RWA and has real liquidity and credibility.
Hello, everyone. Junaid Shah here. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong for the Angel Startup Committee. It's a non-profit organization run predominantly by volunteers to help promote Hong Kong as a scene for startups and angel investors. I've been in Hong Kong myself for almost 14 years now, and over the last few years, it's been very interesting to see how the startup space, the angel startup space in particular, has evolved here in Hong Kong. Obviously, all companies coming through now have a strong digital footprint and sort of DNA to them, but more so with sort of real world assets and sort of the crossover between the real world and the digital world is becoming ever more important. And I think there's a real, base of investors who have a particular keen interest in this space. And I'm really looking forward to today's conversation.
OK， 谢谢。我也先自我介绍一下，我是来。
So introduce myself. I'm from Ludong, Blockbeatst. I'm an author. So what is the current status of RWA, and what areas have been put into place, and what are the key cases that worth our attention for its application? Mr. Farani,
status of RWA today in what scenarios and fields it applied. Are there any cases worth of attention?
Thank you very much. So, cryptocurrency is a landscape which is constantly evolving, and from UK's perspective, UK government has taken a few decisions, and one of them is that they want to take the forefront approach to be the home for cryptocurrency legal framework to provide a landscape where they can harness the opportunity as well as really safeguard and mitigate the risk as well. Mainly because all the payments in cryptocurrency is a digital payment but without a bank. Hence, the underlying technology, underpinning technology is more important. The second decision which UK government has taken is that in this framework, the most important part and focus would be on the financial activities which will be taken by the underpinning technologies, platforms to really regulate the crypto assets. And in this whole scenario, we have seen a case where last year a lot of crypto assets were stolen, and that was a benchmark case where everyone was concerned how hackers can get into the crypto asset and they can take that away. So, in terms of RWA enhancement and progress, I think a few concerns are still there, and this is work in evolution. First one is the fact that how anti-money laundering and KYC is going to be conducted, how safe these transactions are going to be, and how to minimize the risk, and then the technologies on which these firms will be operating. Then they will be dealing with the global payments, how to regulate these assets, and in terms of jurisdiction, which jurisdiction will kick in. That is another area of concern on which also UK government is working as well. Then again, in terms of data protection, that is another concern on which there is a lot of work which needs to be done. But I think there is a lot of progress as far as UK government is concerned. They have decided to start the process in a phase, and phase one is where all the anti-money laundering regime has already kicked in by Financial Services Marketing Act 2020, and the new Financial Services and Market Act 2022 is coming in, which will focus more on the financial activities and the stable coin, which is backed up by the fiat.
Thank you. 叶凯先生。
其实说到 RWA 的
So, speaking of the cases of RWA, we can see from different levels. The first level, they actually just take use of these RWA concept, and they just have some projects launched under this name. And the second level is some top tier platforms. They also have different direction. For example, like McDonald's, and they have their base fund, and then they convert it into some U.S. bond, because RWA asset can generate interest, so they use these asset and their protocols. This is a very interesting case, and for these top tier platforms, like Franklin Founder and Figure, they use Funder and SPK model to structure their assets. So these DeFi investors can enjoy RWA's stable and good returns, and they also try to make it into accumulative interests. And also there is another level like Kuma and Protocol. What they are doing is they make a good use of the core business of RWA, that they convert the traditional bonds to the collateral financing. You can invest into assets, and in the meantime, you can mortgage these assets, so you can get the more liquidity and then make a reinvestment in the ecosystem. So most RQ5 products, they make use of RWA to make some changes. So what I'm interested in is the cases in Hong Kong. Since June this year, there is a new regulation in Hong Kong. So under this compliance, such RWA is a it's likely to make some breakthroughs for us, but we're still at the early stage, so there may not be a lot of cases. Some licensed company like the Pioneer Asset Management, they also have issued an fund, but their project is quite obscure. From PR or other perspective, we cannot see its prospectus or its filing, and we cannot check the data on their website or the open sources. So for this case, it is just a digital REITs. So they kind of packaged some of the stores in Kowloon and Prince Edward, and they also we don't know specifically which stores are, and are they audited, and what are the cash flow for their monthly revenue. So whether it is commissioned to the banks, and what is the bonus structure. If the bonus is not reached as expected, then what is other commitment to the shareholders. So all this information is not open to us. So this is a good attempt, but may not be a good case. So maybe under our efforts, we can have more cases from Hong Kong in terms of our RWA. Thank you. Okay, I will add up. So RWA, actually its existence is because the interest outside the market is higher. So it is like a leverage to balance the revenue. So if you don't want to off-run the digital currency, then you can get some return from the products from RWA. There's a fundamental question. So why should I go online to get some offline products? So that is one of the concern about RWA. But this is a very interesting phenomenon. So for those in the market, the over collateral interest rate is very low, maybe only 2 to 3 percentage points. This is very interesting because we're not doing gambling, so the interest rate is quite low, and actually the loan cost is already more than 5 percentage points. So there is some disparity, but it doesn't mean that it is a lucrative business, because the resources of the funding are diversified. But we are doing some RWA projects because we find that it can help us to get more quality assets. Actually, for now, the source of funding, we are all facing a shortage.
这个链上其他的这个
And it happens that we have the time now, and so for this off-chain assets, we can get them ready to onboard for the crypto money. So this is something we're doing right now, but the liquidity of RWA is just a few hundreds of millions of US dollars, which is not huge. I will share my viewpoints. At this end, we cannot hear very clearly other panelists' remarks, so I have to guess what they are sharing, their viewpoints. Actually, the word RWA is quite a recent word. Actually, back in 2018, we were really following the development of STO, and we think it's very similar because it was ICO and then there was regulation, and STO means that the security laws is applied to launch different types of assets. And I was engaged in some of the projects and some of the events held in Hong Kong. Recently, I'm involved in the designs of the RWA, so I can share with you some of the cases. STO or RWA in the area of investments for this asset class, one big issue is the lack of liquidity. So a lot of investors do not want to invest in this asset type. There is a few investment opportunities recently. One of them is to use blockchain technology to tokenize hotel rooms. And I like the use case of this because it means that you own the rights to use the hotel room. The biggest benefit of it is that you get flexibility. For example, you booked 3 nights, and so you got 3 tokens. After 2 nights, you would like to leave in advance. So the other token, you can sell it in the used second-hand market. Other people can buy this token. The price can go up or down depending on supply and demand. So there is such demand, and that's why I think it's a very good use case. The other one is recently I visited the Changbaishan Mountain in northeast part of China. They invited me to visit the growing farm of ginseng. So they would like to digitalize ginseng and then sell them on licensed exchange in Hong Kong. One special thing about this case is that for the ginseng, the value of it increases over time. The ginseng of 5 years old and 10 years old are different prices. So if we buy this product, the value will increase over time, and that means investors can hold the ginseng for long term. And this is also a real world asset, and it's a very good example. And we would like to make it into an investable and then bring it into the Hong Kong market. But a few basic things that we need to do. First, you need to make sure that the data is authentic. And data in mainland China now is already asset, and there's laws requiring the incorporation of data into the balance sheet. So this data coming into Hong Kong will help to support the issuance of the products, and then investors will have the confidence. And these 2 use cases are the ones that we approached recently. One is in the US and one is in China. Both of them are in the RWA area, and it's for your reference only. About 3 years ago, we proposed to the Hong Kong government to have this land reclaim because of the shortage of land here. For the last administration, it was developed to create the cost of land reclaim is about 600 billion Hong Kong dollars. As the raw material costs goes up, and I think it's going to be more than 70 billion Hong Kong dollars to have the land reclamation. So for RWA, if you want to create an asset with liquidity, then this has to be a big asset. If it's an asset that you issue with a few tens of million, then how can you attract global investors? First, you need to create liquidity, and the asset itself has to be big enough. So then the asset will require the right business model. An investment of 100 billion or to create this piece of land, Usually in Hong Kong, with land reclamation, the price of that land is going to be higher than the cost. So you have this underlying business model. Your cost as well as the value of the reclaimed land, there is a price difference between the two. And the other thing that comes to play is supply and demand. With the last government, when we initiated this program, our advice was for the government to do it through issuing the bond. But unfortunately, we're not here to criticize any individual, but the last government didn't really capture the right opportunity. If the Hong Kong government issued the bond, the interest rate was about 2%. But today, if the government would like to issue the bond, and 6% is not going to be enough, because for the U.S. government, the treasury bond is already 5%. The Hong Kong government, for sure, is going to be more expensive than that of the U.S. If you're going to issue the bond of 100 billion and then 6% interest rate, or 6.5% risk, then your interest per year is going to be 6 billion. Although Hong Kong government does have the money, but you do not want to pay 6 billion interest every year. If you use RWA, tokenization, that means that the investors are going to share the upside of the equity. So for 100 billion cost, then generating 150 billion, that's 50% return. But that return is going to take 2, 3, or 5 years. But it's a big asset, it's an asset with good liquidity. Then you are mainly attracting institutional investors. And for them, they don't need to buy a coin and then to expect multiple holds of increase. And if you want to have such a big coin and with the right business model, then you need to have a very good agency. You need to have the first class investment bank. You need to have the first class accounting firm, law firm, and to dedicate all those resources. But all these first class agencies and want to participate, but it needs to have a legislation framework. We're pleased to see that there was one of this real estate project that's about 100 million that has already been approved by the SFC. Although it's a small project, but at least that's one step forward for the SFC. Since you can approve a 100 million project, and then what about this 700 billion project, which is offering benefits for the entire Hong Kong, and the government is chipping in, and the private sector is chipping in as well. So the international investors are working together with the Hong Kong government. So that is a credible project. And also, there is common law in Hong Kong. There's regulation framework in Hong Kong. So we believe it is the right timing. I also want to emphasize that I know people thought that coins are just air, based on thin air. There's no basis. And everybody is saying that the beauty of thin air coins means that they can go up as high as they can. But just like the NFT that you bought with millions of USD and they only worth a few bucks, so they can go down in value significantly. If it's 100 billion land, the cost is there, and the value is not going to go down. And Hong Kong is one of the most vibrant cities in the Greater China area, and Hong Kong is a super large city, and it's the only city that hasn't finished the housing and infrastructure development. For Beijing and Shanghai, it's pretty much already completed, but not yet in Hong Kong. So this is a huge opportunity for us. If we could capture this opportunity, and also Hong Kong really need this. The bankers, the lawyers and accountants in Hong Kong, maybe there are more than 100,000 professionals. And Hong Kong is an international finance center. And don't forget, we rank number 17 or number 16 worldwide. You can look it up. The Hong Kong Stock Exchange, this year, the financing is even lower than Jakarta. financing exchange. And if things continue as such, we're going to lose our position as international finance center. If we don't innovate, we'll get left behind. So we need to really leverage the resources right here that we have. And once you build the infrastructure for the land reclamation project in Hong Kong, and also using RWA tokenization, then if this works, then think 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 about how many infrastructure projects you can have around the world. Let's say Saudi Arabia, the infrastructure in Saudi Arabia and also housing infrastructure, how much capital does that require? Can they adopt the same approach? Maybe they can get listed here in Hong Kong exchange, and that's why Jaleel visited Saudi Arabia just to attract the businesses. And you have to put it into practice, not just showing your goodwill.
With real world assets, it's taken a bit of time for them to come to the fore, and that's okay because the real world moves, more slowly than the digital world. One of the things that's been great in terms of seeing a lot of angel startups and the startups in Hong Kong is that you come across some very innovative and exciting opportunities, and I just wanted to share a couple of them with you. One of my panelists there just mentioned NFTs, and NFTs have had a bit of a roller coaster ride and are currently in the doldrums. A lot of artists who, specifically NFT artists came, printed a lot of NFTs. There was a big bull run in the market and, subsequently a big sell-off. I think what we've seen emerging over the past, 6, 12, 18 months are more mainstream artists coming through in the NFT space. And very recently, a very famous Chinese artist, Yu Minjung, launched his first NFT collection, which was dropped in Hong Kong through a digital asset manager called Aspen Digital. There was 1,000 pieces of art, but what really crossed over between the real world and the digital world was that this artist was offering a digital print with his physical signature on every piece that was bought in this NFT drop. So that crossover between the real world and the digital world, both from a tangible perspective, but also from a world where this artist is already well established, was really well received, and those NFTs have done very well. Have done really well since, and I think we'll see more of this going forward. Hong Kong being a major global hub for art, I think it's really well positioned to take on some of the more old world artists and really bring them to the fore, which will give a lot of investors in that particular space of NFTs a lot of comfort that what they're buying has some pedigree and has some history behind of it. Another startup that I have come across recently is, again, very innovative and linked to the luxury goods sector, fine wines. So there's again, Hong Kong is a major global hub for fine wine. A lot of wine is bought, held, stored, and traded out of Hong Kong, both into China but also into other parts of the region. And one of the world's sort of most forefront.
那么世界上最前端的一个这个红酒的交易所呢，实际上在香港之外呢，然后呢，他们呢也是在香港这边找合作伙伴来去开发了一个红酒的一个交易的这个平台。那么我也看到了这个平台上面来去购买红酒，尤其是就是一些法国产的这些红酒，实际上，它也充斥着各种各样的一些投资者。那么还有就是。这个平台实际上应该也可以 建立一种新的这种对这些红酒交易的，就是一些高端红酒交易的这么一些信心。我觉得这个空间是很不错的，有很多的初创企业在上面，然后就是把 NFT 的红酒相关的 NFT 的公司，然后介绍进市场。那么 James 呢，实际上也是也认识他们其中的一些人，你可以看一下，随着时间的发展，还会如何的这个发展。另外还有其他的一些公司，我2周之前也接触过，当时呢，我也听他们的一些介绍，然后跟他们创始人来去聊天，我觉得他们。就是这个赛马，那么香港的实际上马会啊，实际是一个大的一个赛马的一个金主了，然后在香港也非常有资产影响力。另外，他们就是把 BTS 一家公司介绍进了市场，然后呢来去。他们也建立了一个平台，让投资者呢是可以投资马匹、赛马，那么可以投资于它的不同的这个阶段，比如说是这个在初期阶段呢，或者是一些进入赛马的这个阶段呢，然后你就可以让投资者们是可以。实际上，这个市场很难进入的，尤其是对于那些零售的这个投资者，你可以把一些年轻的群体介绍到这个市场里面，而同时呢，你也可以有更好的一些这个治理和更好的一个监管，也可以反洗钱还有这些机制啊，还有一些跟赛马相关的这么一些机制，还有从 ESG 的这个角度来说呢，还有就是动物的福利呀、动物的这个待遇啊等等。那么有2、3个例子，就是这些真实世界的资产，不管是这个进行这个代币化呀，或者是这个进行细分呢，这些都是很不错的一些尝试。我觉得呢，就是香港在这方面呢是可以有很好的这么优势呢。比如说，香港交易所在这个它的这个交易量方面就是表现非常的亮眼，但是呢，我觉得还有其他的一些领域呢，实际上我们可能没有想过的一些领域，它可能是真的可以借助到香港的一些实力啊，比如说像赛马啦，还有奢侈品啊这些方面，奢侈红酒啊这些方面，这些实际上都可以去探索一下，香港是可以在这方面取胜的，因为它已经有这样的竞争实力在那儿了。好，谢谢。
This question for you. In your experience, what are the main legal concerns that customers have about RWA in the DeFi field? What's your opinion on this?
So, thank you very much. So, most of the clients have customers have concerns in relation to the security of the crypto assets when they are purchasing, how to secure their wallets, securing their identities, and because all these crypto assets are backed up by the smart contracts and smart contracts are written in codes, not in law. So in code, if anything goes wrong and it has been executed in the technology, then it is irreversible. So in terms of safeguarding the transactional value and providing stability and a universal framework, UK government has taken a very strong stance on this, and they want to be proactive about this. As I mentioned earlier, that Financial Services and Marketing Act 2020 has already developed this money laundering regime where registration of the tokenization of the asset is important. The second part is the financial activities which will take place, they need to be regulated. In the coming years, the whole approach for customers' point of view who are dealing with crypto assets. So UK government particularly has taken a stance. They want to start by having a legislation and a framework for stable coins which is backed by fiat. Then there is going to be a digital pound, and UK government is working towards creating a digital pound with Her Majesty's Treasury. So UK will be the first one at a government level who will be not only introducing the framework but also introducing a digital pound as well. Also, UK government has started working with the HMRC, which is the Tax Revenue Department, to start processing and taxing the crypto assets. The next move will be the contract, just like bill of lading. When you are doing international trade, you have a document which is created as a bill of lading. So the next stance would be to create a contract which will be a digital receipt or a bill, just like bill of lading. And then also UK has taken a stronger stance for the DL technologies, under which the blockchain works, which regulates the framework, in order to create a framework for the sovereign debts as well. So these are all the steps, evolutionary steps, which UK government is taking towards creating a framework in terms of the legal and financial sector, which will provide more security for the customers or clients who are dealing with the crypto assets.
Thank you，叶开先生。您如何看待
So how would you regard the new opportunities brought by RWA to the private equity sector? I think for RWA, for our private equity, it's a very good opportunity, absolutely, because you know that the private equity in China is what is equivalent to the number 9 license in Hong Kong, and we also set up a company in Hong Kong. First, we start with the institutional investors and clients, and then we also try to do some crypto asset investment. And then we also take a shareholding of the number 9 license holder. With all these technology and expertise, then we will collaborate with Hong Kong Exchange and other partners to do some early stage incubation and also the strategic partner searching for these startups. And then maybe we will become some kind of intermediaries, and then we can also invite banks and security companies and other financial resources to participate in these compliance RWA and other financial institutions in Hong Kong. And we also hope that we can also bring in more banks and security companies in mainland. We also have been communicating with them for a long time, and they are also very interested in the new regulation in Hong Kong and the virtual asset policy. In terms of asset allocation, they also want to have some tries. Before they did not have such channels, but now they already have it in Hong Kong. And another aspect is that how can we provide good services to our premium clients, but with the existing financing structure in mainland, the cost is high or the quota is limited for financing, especially for the private-owned enterprises. If you know our financing situation, the lending for state-owned enterprises are quite favorable, but really are not that friendly to the private-owned enterprises. So under maybe the RWA scheme can provide more financing channels for mainland enterprises, and for those institutions, traditional institutions, maybe they still have some concerns about this digital asset and this RWA. So that is one of the challenges that we need to solve. Maybe in the future we can join hands to raise more awareness and do more education work. And also in the past few years, we have been doing these bond issuance for enterprises. So what is the RWA? Actually, it is corporate financing. So maybe U.S. bond is not a corporate because they are government issues. Actually, they are a special kind of corporate. We also have a special grading for the U.S. bond. And not long ago, actually, its grading is reduced from AAA to A plus. But still, it is a very premium asset. And so for corporate financing, it has to rely on the institutional clients. It is not only limited to the retail investors, so it needs the institutional investors. It needs to take some time to finance a certain amount of capital. So you cannot wholly rely on the retail investors. So this is an interbank market. So what's the characteristic of interbank market? Maybe you issue 5 to 10 billion, half to 1 billion of bond. Maybe you already have negotiated all the terms, and after you make the issuance in the exchange, you can sell it once and for all. And after some time, you can enter into the secondary market, and then the retail investors can join in at this stage. So this is the model of the institutional market. So for RWA, we can make some improvements. We can take advantage of the institutional market, and then at the same time, we can introduce into the decentralized and the crypto characteristic of the RWA. So that is a very good opportunity offered by RWA. And we also think that RWA is a driving force for the next bull market. But, well, the bull market of the cryptocurrency has to be dependent on the scale of the exchange. And maybe the next ride also greatly depends on the institutional clients of RWA. Maybe, well, the first licensed exchange already opened, and it is more than 1 month. I actually attend to its daily transaction amount. Actually, from the weekdays, and it's like 50, but then to weekend it is reduced to 8. So we can see that the transaction amount is quite limited because Hashkey mainly rely on the pure digital coins like the Bitcoin and Ether coin, etc. So it's very hard for us to surpass Ping An and other traditional exchanges. So how can we introduce RWA? That is our major challenge. Hong Kong has the requirements that your license holders must exchange certain tokens. So that is so what Hashkey is focusing on is the retail clients. We have to consider how to introduce into the institutional clients. They are very important because they can do the underwriting, and the secondary fund can also be introduced to have more liquidity. So we can build upon the scale. So we will rely both on institutional and retail clients to build up the business.
So when we do financing for traditional businesses, we can issue the bond or rates starting from at least 500 million, and for rates at least 1 or 2 billion. So you can imagine if we could modify the institutional investors so that they can adapt to RWA exchanges, and then this 500 million trading volume, and that is when there's an IPO, and then with secondary and funds and creating more liquidity, you can imagine for each RW project, the trading volume is not just 500 million, it's going to be 1 billion possibly. So if tens of thousands of retailers can only bring you so much. The RWA today, we're thinking about it simply. For example, this real estate fund-based securitized tokens. So it's just tokenization. Actually, with the DeFi model and also our experiences of securitization, and then for the tokenization of RWA assets, I think there should be 3 layers. And the first layer is your technical assets should be changed into RWA, built on a blockchain and smart contract. And second layer is that your yield and your arbitrage model, not just issuing a securitized token. And if your return should be arbitraged, or is it possible that the premium you cannot get from traditional investment, can you get it from the RWA assets? For example, for our ESS customers, energy storage, we're designing this for them. They from the whole storage process, green energy to energy storage to the actual usage, it can actually create carbon credit, carbon assets, which cannot be possible for traditional financing. And then you have this RWA token, and that helps to create incremental. And then the third layer is to build a structure. So you use the blockchain technology, smart contract, and some DeFi technologies. And then to show the differentiation between RWA and traditional investments. So you have these digital assets, and you can have a smart arbitrage, and then you also have the distributed technology and also permissionless technology. I think these 3 layers are a very optimal structure for RWA. And for RWA, we need to work together and build the ecosystem, for asset regulation perspective. We are the virtual asset funder. We can do the build the investment portfolio, and we can do incubation or secondary fund. But of course, we need to attract traditional financial institutions, and so they can become a digital investment bank. We want banks to get involved as well, and to do the custody of digital assets, and also insurance business as well, to have some long-term RWA assets. So the ecosystem is one advantage that Hong Kong enjoys because it is compliant. We would like to use the assets in mainland China together with the compliance framework in Hong Kong, to bring in overseas assets, through the compliant RWA approach to hold the assets in mainland China. Okay, Mr. Wang Tianfan, as an investment institution, where do you think RWA stands today? This industry is very simple. The valuation is about 1 trillion. So it's a 532. So 50% of it is BEC, 30% Ethereum asset, 20% stable coin. The 50% BTC assets right now, there is no good wealth management channel. So whatever BTC lending, or how to release the BTC liquidity, so it's not in the RWA area yet. And then Ethereum, the native on-chain rate of return is based on Lido's 4 points. And And this is something very interesting. And right now, it's irrelevant to RWA. What is relevant to RWA is the about 100, 200 million stable coins on chain. So this is still quite a trading based or whatever laundry based money flow tool. So what stays in the RWA? Back to the question, why would I want to buy some offline asset on chain? And people now are looking for assets. When interest is high, people don't want to lend assets. A lot of the assets and they don't want to lend, and they can't get money from traditional market because the assets is less than the money. So with RWA today, it's still in the stage of building infrastructure. Some have been moved on chain. Some overseas platforms like Centerpage or Open Eden in Hong Kong, some have moved the American bonds and some non-standard assets, but a lot of defaults there. So we need to answer the question, how can we make sure RWA is not P2P? What is different between RWA and P2P? We need to ask ourselves, what are we doing? Are we doing tokenization? We just build a P2P, a pool, and selling next-time products to the retailers? Or are we really facing the institutions, the banks, asset manager? You don't even have an interface for them. You need to have the asset manager to deploy on-chain assets with asset bank off-chain. You don't even have a trading interface. That's why we see a lot of people were creating this trading interface. And also for the asset end, on-chain or off-chain assets. Right now, the interest is very high. People just get these assets, onboard them, and there may not be liquidity. But we need to keep in mind, we don't want to keep developing it into a P2P or STO. So compliance is really important. There was no opportunity in the Asia because there was Centrifuge, GoFink in Europe and the US, and none of them has been really successful. Now it has happened here in Hong Kong and Singapore. That's because Asia is open and the capital market environment has changed. So that requires a new way of doing things. RWA is a bit like a solution that we can have for a bear market. Just a story to tell to the market about how can we really change it into a very important asset purchase infrastructure. Because once the stable coins are issued, then how much of it should be put on the corporate paper and how much to put into debt and how much into alternative asset. So you want to complete the trading interface and to see if all these assets are worth allocating, but it's not an asset for retailers, it's more for institutions. And it's still quite early days now. Mr. Lau Weixing, from your background, your experiences, what do you think are the opportunities for RWA in different sectors? Let's speed up. I think the whole world is promoting digital economy, and for sure you will have digital assets. And data is a very important part of it. So I'm very confident in data in the future. Right now in mainland China, there's already over 40 data exchanges. And I think that's going to play a very important role in the future. And innovation can also promote economic development. So I think patents are important. Patents can protect technology. And a lot of companies, their value is in the intellectual properties. So I think the securitization or tokenization of these intangible assets is very important. But for the sake of time, I would not elaborate the details. But I think the digital economy and intangible assets are the asset class that I think will flourish in the future. Thank you so much. That's all the time we have for this round of panel discussion. Thank you to all of our panelists.